Sci-fi and fantasy are a genre within film. Genre is the style or category of a work of art. To identify what a genre a film belongs to, we identify its repertoire of elements. The repertoire of elements consists of iconography, characters, setting, and narrative. Sci-fi and fantasy both deal with imaginative, fictitious concepts. This is why they are often grouped into one category. However, they are quite different. Sci-fi films consider stories that could be real in the future, often with the use of science. For example, time travel.
Hot tub time machine.
Whereas fantasy films include more imagination and involve concepts that will never exist, such as magic.
Oculus Reparo.
This means that these genres have a different repertoire of elements. First, let's look at sci-fi.
Science fiction presents the viewer with a wide range of creative and exciting themes and concepts, usually that are not possible in everyday life. Maybe that's why it's such a popular genre, because we find it interesting to see what life could be like, for example with technological advancements, or if we were contacted by extraterrestrials. This clip from Star Wars is a perfect example of the things that we would expect to see in a sci-fi film. Spacesuits, spaceships, and space itself are a dead giveaway of the genre, as the iconography and the setting from the repertoire of elements in film are present. A large part of sci-fi films nowadays incorporate CGI, and from this clip we can clearly see it in its early stages, like the explosions not quite looking realistic. Notice also the spaceships at the beginning were models, cleverly being used to make them appear bigger, so CGI wasn't needed. Modern technology now allows us to use CGI to its full potential. Like in this next clip from Interstellar, the spaceship looks very real and so does the environment they are in. The black hole created here by CGI is the most accurate visual representation we have of one to date. It was created by research with scientists at NASA. The storyline of Interstellar doesn't include a main bad guy who tries to rule the world, because it doesn't have to. The plot of a sci-fi is very flexible, and sometimes, like in Interstellar, the thing the main character is fighting is the elements. In this case, it's time. He wants to get back to Earth in time to see his daughter before she dies of old age. Back to the Future Part 2, on the other hand, did have a hero-slash-villain scenario, which produced a large part of the story, but it also takes place in the future for a good part of the film, which is another example of the classic settings of a sci-fi film. The series of films and Star Wars also link into one of A. Berger's theories of genre. As for both of them, towards the ends of their films their popularity began to fall, as viewers were beginning to become bored of having the same stories and concepts. Star Wars is rising in popularity now in response to the return of the franchise. Fans have been without any new material, and are now excited for the storyline to continue and to return to familiar settings and characters, as they have been waiting for a long time. Star Wars is also a hybrid, due to the fact that not only does it fit into the sci-fi genre, it also counts as a war film, with ongoing battles between the Imperials and the Rebels. Sometimes a sci-fi can be in the present, like in Gravity. It takes place in modern day, and is set in space. It follows the events of a main character, an astronaut, which is a good example of a stock character in sci-fi films from the repertoire of elements. After a collision causes the space station they are on to be destroyed. This is also a plot which is completely against the mercilessness of space, showing that sometimes the real enemy is space itself, and the seeming impossible challenges that you would have to overcome to survive a situation like that.
Fantasy is quite a wide, fascinating genre. It also contains many subgenres such as fairy tales and superhero films. Iconography are the visual signs we associate with the genre. The iconography for fantasy can be grouped as all magical objects we see in films. These are usually ordinary objects with supernatural powers. For example, in Lord of the ring gives the people who wear it the power of invisibility. The setting for fantasy films is usually in a different world, which often looks like our world, but there are different rules all the characters accept as the norm. For example, in Harry Potter, it's set in a human world, however magic is real, and all the characters just seem to accept that it's normal. The typical characters associated with fantasy are any mythical creatures. There can be human ones who look like us, but have supernatural powers, like a vampire or wizard. But many times you can tell a characters from a fantasy film just by looking at them, like a dragon or a witch. Narnia shows a very wide range of typical characters you would see in a fantasy film. Narrative is the expected storyline you would see in a film. In fantasy, the typical storyline is that the hero goes on a quest to find something or someone and has to tackle many obstacles presented by the villain in order to achieve what they set out for. For example, in The Wizard of Oz, the hero, Dorothy, goes on a quest to get home, but the villain, the witch, creates obstacles to prevent her. Dorothy has to defeat the witch and manages to get home in the end. Where did the genre originate from? The first fantasy films were produced in France by Georges Méliès, who was in a way the pioneer of fantasy and sci-fi films. He used trick photography and very elaborate sets to create stories such as A Trip to the Moon in 1902. Since then, filmmakers experimented with their cameras to gain different effects, which nowadays can be easily created using CGI.